I've been typecast as, the feel-good, happy news kind of guy. And what I've been doing is just whitewashing the whole thing. I felt like, I've got to do something different. What could I do?
Well, for years, we certainly all watched and love Steve Hartman's reports on CBS News, making us believe in the good in life, bringing us stories about ordinary people and their humanity. But for the last 7 years, Steve Hartman has been working on a different kind of project. It's called All the Empty Rooms. It's been a 7-year journey to document empty bedrooms of children who were killed in school shootings. And Steve Hartman is joining me now. Steve, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
It is a departure of your work. I think your stories are the ones that we look forward to. We're like, oh, let's just hear how he turned this amazing, ordinary day into a fabulous story. But it sounds to me like this was personal, like you really felt as a father and a human that you needed to do something to maybe make us less numb to school shootings.
That's exactly right. I had covered, done the feel-good angle to some of these stories, the hero teacher, the community coming together. So I'd covered school shootings in my own way for quite a while, but I got tired of doing that. And I felt like I was like whitewashing the whole thing. And I wanted to do something to restore some empathy, because I felt personally like I had grown numb to the tragedies. You forget, there were so many, you'd forget them and, move on, and just felt wrong. So this was my way of trying to restore some of my own empathy and the nation's empathy.
Yeah, in the short on Netflix that we can watch, it's a 30-minute documentary. You say, I wish we could transport all Americans to stand in one of these bedrooms for just a few minutes. We'd be a different America. You believe that? What do you think would happen?
Well, I believe that because, you see a picture of a kid who died in a school shooting, and it's pretty easy to just say, oh, that's somebody else's kid. But when you stand in these rooms and you look around, and on all four walls and on every surface, there's a reminder not only of that child, but of your child. They collect some of the same things. They have some of the same mementos, and there's reminders of the school trip they took. And it's just it brings it all home. And I kind of feel like, we've tried to solve this issue for decades now, but I don't think we can truly begin to solve the problem until we feel the weight of it. And this documentary is meant to help people feel the weight of the problem.
I mean, these bedrooms truly are sacred spaces. My understanding, you actually went to all different homes across America, sadly, how many different cities and towns have been impacted, and also here in Connecticut at Sandy Hook.
Yes, we visited the bedroom of Charlotte Bacon, and it was the one family from Sandy Hook that agreed to let us in. Some of the bedrooms had been changed or moved, but the Bacons allowed us into their home and allowed us to get to know Charlotte through the bedroom. And there are a few photos from that room that will always stick with me, like the last library book that Charlotte checked out, was still sitting there. And that's the kind of thing that when you feel that, and you start to feel a little bit of what the parents have felt, you're really driven to find a solution. The film is not about finding solutions. It's meant just sort of as a restart, a fresh place to begin approaching this issue, because so far not much has worked.
As you visited so many different rooms, was there one unifying theme of how the parents seemed to treat these sacred spaces, or was it all different?
Well, it is sacred, and sometimes even close friends and family are not allowed in these spaces. The door's locked. It's definitely a cherished, place where many parents go to, some every day. One family, they say good morning to their daughter still every morning and good night every night. So, and another dad goes in there and he sits by the bedside and talks to her. So Many families don't want to surrender the rooms because it's almost like another stage of grief that they have to go through, and it's kind of a mixed blessing. It's definitely comfort when you can go in there and feel your child, but it's also agony. So it's a complicated space.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that from reading a little bit about your project, a lot of the parents felt super connected to the smell, the visceral smell that still exists.
Yeah, the smell of a lovey, or even the smell of dirty clothes. We met one, and I've heard of others where the dirty clothes still, sit in the hamper because they just do not want to sacrifice that memory of their child, that clothes hamper. Another bedroom where the bed is still unmade, still just as it was the day their child went to school.
And we're so used to seeing you tell these incredible stories where you uplift us, and this is definitely different. How did this project start? What made you say yes?
Well, this project is different, but I kind of still look at it as hopeful. Sometimes people say, "Oh, I'm not sure I can watch that," but everybody who does watch it usually comes out of it feeling like, okay, I think we can solve this problem. So it's not really all that different from what I normally do. I'm just hopeful that this will have a much larger impact and affect change in a way none of my other stories ever have.
Yeah, and you go back as far as Columbine, am I correct?
We did not find any bedrooms in Columbine, no.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
Well, since
kind
Columbine.
of what the idea came to me during Parkland or after Parkland, and then we did go back to some previous school shootings and checked in with those families. I wrote letters to virtually everybody who lost a child in a school shooting since your tragedy there at Sandy Hook. And most didn't respond expectedly. Some did respond and say the room isn't as it was. And in the end, 8 different families agreed to be part of this project.
And when they decide to keep the room, did you find from your correspondence, I know you couldn't visit them all, but did most parents decide they just wanted to keep the rooms as they were and preserve them?
The ones we visited, yes. There was one family that kind of wanted to keep the room, but there was a big part of them that wanted to move. They wanted to get out of town. And they just could not close up that bedroom. They couldn't sell that house that had the room in it. That was one bit of good news that came out of this. Being part of our project, we documented the room, took pictures, gave them photo books of the room. As a result of our project, they tell me, they were able to finally pack up the room and leave town. And if nothing else comes from this, I'm really glad that we were able to help them in that difficult step.
Yeah, I mean, to give somebody closure and to have
Yeah.
those mementos, I can imagine that would be difficult. I know from us covering so many different stories of Sandy Hook here, there have been families who've gone on to create amazing charities or to go to Capitol Hill and protest. I mean, everyone's kind of handled it a little differently. But if there's one message where you think this could make the difference, or what we could take away and become more hopeful to end this madness, what would that be?
Well, I think the one thing that sets this project apart from all others is there's no mention of guns. There's no agenda to this whatsoever. We just really want people to come together, all sides. Everybody who thinks they have a firm opinion on this, you're welcome to watch. We just want everybody to start fresh. And I think with this new beginning and what we're offering, it just might bring people together. Now, there's a big part of me that's pessimistic that nothing can really change anything, but I'm more hopeful now than I was when I started this, I'll tell you that much.
Well, that's good to hear. And what did you, was there something that surprised you? Obviously, you've covered these stories for so long, but as you went in and did this project, was there one thing that really surprised you or hit you the most?
Well, I would say what surprised me is just when you're standing in the rooms, the feeling of just time being frozen. You can really picture the child that morning, and you look around and there's so many little tasks left undone. We all leave a room and leave something behind, or there was one room where there was a toothpaste tube, and it's just the photographer Lou Bope got a shot of the toothpaste tube cap left open. And you can just imagine the child brushing their teeth that morning, rushing to school, no time, didn't even care about closing the cap. And it's little things like that, homework strewn on the floor, beds unmade. Um, it's the kind of thing that, just it never leaves you. Perhaps because I see my own child in that room. But for whatever reason, I do think that America needs to stand in those rooms.
Yeah. How many kids do you have, Steve?
I have three.
And how old are they?
Well, it changes every year, so it's hard to keep track of. But I think now we're at 17, 15, and 12.
Okay. So I'm sort of similar. I have a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old, and I remember my daughter being in kindergarten the day that I found myself on the news desk when Sandy Hook happened, and just wanting to retrieve her from kindergarten, and my husband, who's also a news anchor, going to do that because school shut down here, and thinking, oh my gosh, how could that happen? And yet we do, as journalists and as Americans, report on this and hear about it way too often. As people who have seen this, do they tell you that it helps? Are they less numb, or what is some of the reaction? I know it's only been out a little bit.
Yeah, the reaction is, to be honest, pretty overwhelming. I tend to take positive feedback with a grain of salt, but every once in a while you'll hear something or somebody will say something and you realize just how truly sincere they are. And I'm getting a lot of comments like that from people who've seen the film, and it accomplished our goal. And that's another reason that I'm optimistic that if enough people watch this documentary from across the political spectrum, that maybe we'll be one step closer to coming to making things. The problem's not gonna go away, but to lightening our burden.
And the parents, after they've gotten a chance to see it, which is on Netflix, I want to let everyone know it's on Netflix right now. It's a short, it's 30 minutes. We all have some time for that. Have any of the parents expressed to you how they felt or what it may have done for them after seeing this?
Yeah, I mean, when you launch on a project like this and you ask something so personal of a stranger, can I, go into your child's bedroom and take pictures? You worry a little bit because you want that trust that's been placed in you to be rewarded. So I desperately wanted them to be happy with the project when we were done. And for every family, they are grateful with not what I did, the filmmaker, Josh Seftel. He's the one who kind of crafted this documentary, and he did just a very tactful, beautiful job of showcasing these children celebrating their lives.
Yeah, and tell me, so yeah, he's an Oscar-nominated filmmaker behind Stranger at the Gate, also produced Islamophobia with the Nobel Prize laureate Malala.
Yeah.
You also, tell us a little bit about, you have a very special photographer working on this project with you?
Yeah, his name was Lou Bope, and it's a still photographer. When we set out to do this, I'm in the TV medium, so your initial instinct is to get video, but I just thought for this project stills would work better. I don't really know why, I just felt like they would. And so I reached out to Lou, who's he's a lifestyle photographer. He takes pictures of people, but I was asking him to take a picture of someone who's not there anymore. And he was able to, in every single room, to capture their essence and see something that the rest of us would never even pick up on in each room. So it was the right person for the job. I'd known him for a long time. I lived in his basement for a while. So I trusted him, and he trusted me.
Yeah, I mean, we're watching some of the videos scroll over as you talk to us, and obviously this is such an intense, personal, emotional story, but one that needs to be told. Just let everyone know how they can watch this.
Well, it's available now on Netflix. Just search for All the Empty Rooms, and it's just just over 30 minutes long, so it's not a heavy lift. And I really do hope that everybody there in Connecticut and across America just takes those 30 minutes and gives it a view.
Steve Hartman from CBS News, thank you so much for joining with us and sharing your time to explain all the empty rooms with us. We really appreciate all the work that you do. Been a huge fan for many years, so thanks for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.